Hey, I'm Jennifer Houle, and this is Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points.
A brief note before we get into today's episode. Even though there's nothing really graphic, we do discuss topics that are disturbing to some, including domestic abuse, violence, child trafficking, in the context of this job ad that we found. So, little content warning. If that bothers you, turn this episode off.
This week, it's me. I'm the one who's bringing a job forward, a job posting forward. So let me tell you a little bit about why I chose this job and how I found it. I found it just on LinkedIn. And I think we've talked about this before too. Our LinkedIn algorithms are so confused about what it is. Like, what do you want? Do you want to be a dog nanny, or do you want a job in human resources? What is it that you're looking for? But I don't even really know. I think I just stumbled across this posting and this company. I was like, oh yeah, this company probably has some cool jobs that maybe we haven't even thought about. And then lo and behold, I found something for a role called specialist, safety.
Cool. LinkedIn, you're right. LinkedIn is so confused with both of us. I forgot to tell you this funniest thing ever. I got a job ad, like I got a little LinkedIn pop-up on my phone saying, still looking for a job, you might be interested in this. And then it said, it was a job in the UK, and it was the fight night coordinator at a boxing club or something like that. And I'm like, now, LinkedIn, what exactly told you that A, I like boxing, and B, I'm interested in jobs in the UK? I mean, yeah, Dr. Sam, like we filmed something with him recently, so you know that I was looking at job ads in the UK, but fight night coordinator?
I think you should bring that one. Like, we should do that for a future episode. I love that idea. Fight
should
night.
Apply for it.
Yeah. Some I found and I'm like super interested in it, and then I read the posting and it's 3 sentences long. It's just not enough for us to dissect too much. But yeah, there are some interesting ones. I've also found that Reddit has quite a few job postings where people are basically like naming and shaming, like what is this that I need to scour a little bit more. I've taken a few screenshots. I'm like, oh, I need to go find that job posting, because sometimes it is just a screenshot. So you have to figure out how to actually find the job posting itself, but some are wild, which is why we do this show, right? This role it says specialist, safety. I'm just going to call it safety specialist.
Sure,
that's a job title. Reports to unknown. The company size is 5,000 to 10,000 employees. That's a category on LinkedIn. The industry is software development, which was kind of a surprise to me. It makes sense now. But I thought it would be something else. And so to see it categorized as software development was interesting to me. But like I said, sure, makes sense. So what do they do? Online marketplace that connects people looking for short-term accommodations or unique travel experiences with local hosts who have space to rent. Got it?
That makes it make sense.
Yeah. And also head office location, San Francisco, California. The job.
Oh, I wonder who we're talking about.
Put on your detective hat. The job location is remote Canada. The geographical operating area is global. And the job type is full-time permanent. I'm really curious as we go into this, whether or not you knew that this was a role that existed, because I had no idea. And I went down the rabbit hole with this one because I was like, why would they need this role? And the more I read, the more I was like, oh my God, I had no idea these types of things happened. Like, this is kind of like marrying my love of human resources with my love of true crime as I like dug into this role a little bit more. Yeah, I know. I'm hyping it up. Okay. So there is an about the job section, and it just gives information about the company, that it was born in 2007, and it was created when 2 hosts welcomed 3 guests in their own San Francisco home, and then has blossomed into welcoming over 2 billion guest arrivals in almost every country across the globe with this company. So it says about the job, but that's about the company. That's just the format that they've done. The next heading is the difference you will make. So I'm just going to read a couple of blurbs and then we can pause there. I do like the title, just FYI, of the difference you will make. I think it's important for people to connect a line between like what it is that they'll do and how that will impact things. Okay. We are looking for a talented and experienced person who will look after a variety of safety concerns for our community, including but not limited to discrimination, personal safety, threats, domestic violence, suicide or self-harm, child exploitation, physical assault, and sexual assault, drug activity, sex work, and human trafficking. The successful candidate will demonstrate an excellent understanding of how to properly identify threatening and harmful circumstances, empathetic communication, use of good judgment, and quick decision-making, with the goal of providing the best support possible for the survivors and restore their status quo. So I'm going to stop there. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, honesty. Honesty is front and center. Which I like. Like this is that couple of little blurbs makes it very, very clear that the person who is in this role is going to be dealing with some pretty horrific stuff. Like it's not going to be great. Like this isn't going to be a kind of fabled tech role where you have your laundry done for you and you take 6 breaks a day and go hang out in like the Googleplex or whatever and ride your scooter around campus. Like you're going to deal with some shit. And it's probably going to take a bit of a mental toll on you. So they're clear about that, which is good. I would call that a green flag for sure. It doesn't sound like they're trying to obscure that. I'm really curious, and we'll get to this, I know, but I'm really curious what the requirements are going to be, like the past experience and education and whatnot, because this is intersecting with criminal activity, right?
Yes.
So does that suggest that they want someone who was formerly an investigator or a police officer or something like that? Like I could see that skill set tying into this really, really well, but that is not typical tech.
Yes, yeah.
I'm curious.
I agree with you. That would be a good skill set. That's not the vibe I'm getting from the job posting though. So I agree with you that it's transparent. Like they have to say what it is that you're going to be dealing with. And I think that's what surprised me. I was like, wait, these are all things that happen when, that could happen or have happened. Like anytime a role is created like this, it's because something happened that requires this role to exist. And so my mind started to go to like, well, what could have possibly happened? And you can go down, like I said, you can go down a rabbit hole and read articles about horrific things that have occurred in rental properties and short-term rental properties, unfortunately. And yeah, not great. The job posting, this is still in the difference you will make section. It talks about how this position is frontline contact center role, interacting directly with the customers. Successful candidates need strong communication skills, problem-solving abilities, and customer service expertise. Adaptable, responsive, fast-paced environment, sometimes under pressure. They need to be proactive, resourceful, efficient, a high level of professionalism and confidentiality. It also mentions that in this role, you need to be flexible. You might be required to move to different teams within community support and or take up different responsibilities from those set out below. And the ideal candidate will be open to a role which will evolve based on business needs. So that's a little bit extra and that wraps up the difference you will make section. You said, so that provided some insight for you. Did you want to share with the class, Paul?
Yeah. So this is not a policy role. This is a frontline kind of, they called it frontline, like you're going to be talking directly to the customers of the platform. So not a policy role. You're going to have to be a very good communicator. And you're also going to have to I feel like probably not all of the time, but at least a good chunk of the time, you're going to have to be able to think on your feet and be a bit of a good crisis communicator. Like one of the more kind of mundane things that I can think about coming up for this is, you're staying at a flat that you've rented from this company in a foreign city, and you're asleep, and someone breaks in. And they leave or whatever. Maybe they realize that you're there and they're not going to get anything, or they don't want to be involved in fighting you or something, so they leave. And your first probably contact point, especially if you don't speak the language in that city or country, isn't going to necessarily be contact law enforcement, although that should absolutely be your first call. People call law enforcement first, call these people second, but some people will call these people first because they know that they'll be able to speak the language. So you're going to have to be able to talk a freaked out person through what to do next. Like, A, are you okay? B, have you contacted law enforcement? C, go lock the damn door. All of that stuff. And you've got to keep your composure while you're doing that, because if you get freaked out, you're going to make it worse for them. That's not a skill set that everybody has. It's very challenging for a lot of people to remain calm and composed in crisis scenarios. And it sounds like this person's going to need to be able to do that.
You are bang on. Another example could be that, you are a host and maybe you have cameras at your front door, whatever it is, and you suspect child trafficking or something, sex trafficking. Something is happening. You saw something on the camera. Maybe you don't want to call 911 right away. Maybe you don't know what to do. It could be that you call this line and this person talks you through it. Maybe they call 911 on your behalf. Or they take down the posting. Something happened there. Maybe somebody unfortunately died. Maybe somebody died by suicide on their property. That person then maybe is called after 911 in that situation, and they're shutting down the listing. They're dealing with insurance because there would be insurance through this company. So their emergency response in-house, it's a huge job. It's a really big job. So that was the section. That was just the difference you will make. I think the biggest issue that I have with the difference you will make section is that it doesn't actually tell you the difference you will make. Like it talks about the role itself and what you will be doing, that it's a full-time position based in Canada, but it doesn't actually say the difference you will make. Like you will resolve issues for clients, or you will help achieve a positive outcome, or et cetera, et cetera. It's not saying that. So for me, it's just the wrong heading. Like it should just be about the role. I know that because some companies like to try to do things differently by having different headings, but this one doesn't actually match the content. So that was kind of annoying for me.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to take that kind of standpoint and basically position that you're framing this job as one that's high impact for things that matter, if you're going to frame it that way, you should say how it's going to matter, what the impact is.
Exactly. The next section, which I appreciate, again, I like the title more than I like the content, but the subheading is a typical day. And so, you're going to assume it's going to talk to you about what a typical day would look like. But it doesn't. This is where they go into the role responsibilities. It's just the responsibilities. I want to, if you're going to say typical day, paint a picture of from like when you log in the morning till when you log out. Tell me what that's going to look like. You can also do the responsibilities, but just like if you're going to say typical day, then show the typical day. So it basically says, given the fast-moving nature of the work, the responsibilities set out below may change and additional duties may be assigned as needed. It's quite extensive, so I'm not going to read through all of it, but the first heading is complex case management. And then it says, has perfected the core of your role of providing the highest level of service to our community. So interacting with company customers and community members through all current and future channels inside and outside of the company tools, including live chat, social platforms, messaging, or directly through the phone. You're going to end-to-end manage complex cases with the objective of resolving customer issues. You take on casework at a degree of severity, complexity, under close supervision. That's a little bit about that one heading. Another heading is combining efficiency with quality. So it says has displayed an ability to handle a larger volume of cases without negatively impacting the quality of the interaction and the resolution. Another heading is participating in the safety service improvement. Leverage your functional operational knowledge to support the team to succeed. If it sounds like I'm stumbling across my words, it's because I'm reading it exactly as written, and I want to say it the correct way, but it's written incorrectly. So I'm like really tripping over my words here. And if you've been listening for a while, then you would know that I just absolutely hate that, but I want to stay true to the posting. Stakeholder engagement, beginning to explore network with other delivery teams and key functional partners. So the bullet points are displays openness and approachability when resolving issues, understands key drivers of your role and how they relate to one another. So I'm going to stop there. Reminder that was under a typical day. Any thoughts on that? Red flags, green flags?
Yeah. Something sticks out as, I hope it is not a pattern, but I see the beginnings of a pattern here. The part where they're talking about you need to be able to handle a very high caseload without sacrificing on quality, that sets off warning signs a little bit. That sounds kind of like, we're going to dump a bunch of work on you, and you're going to have to figure it out. So unless they're talking also about the support structure around your role, your team, that part very much read to me like, you're going to work. And yeah, do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kind of think about trends in the larger tech industry too. Like safety and security teams they've been cut more and more over the past couple of years. Like you have less resources in large tech companies being devoted to safety and security and moderation as well, which kind of folds under the same umbrella. So if this is kind of another case of that, another example of that, where you've got basically too small a team to manage the work and you're being expected to kind of make up the difference, big red flag. I'll reserve judgment until I read the actual posting in a little bit, but this starting to smell a little bit bad.
Yeah, and there's so much information we don't have. We don't know who this reports to, who this role reports to. We don't know the size of the team. That information is missing. And so there are other parts of the responsibilities that talk about like that you would help document ways of working, best practices, and the norms for your service as requested by management, but we don't know who management is. Provide technical, functional, subject matter expertise to less experienced members of the team. That's also in there. So you're going to be training people. So it's not just you're answering these calls and you are helping people in like really time sensitive matters and like end to end managing that, but you are also documenting best practices, you're training your colleagues. Like it's a lot. This is a hefty role.
It almost sounds like there isn't a formalized process improvement function. You know, if I think about these support agents, which is basically I think kind of what they are, support agents kind of interacting directly with customers, but also doing process improvement work, documenting SOPs and doing training. That to me reads a little bit like there's a missing layer. And sometimes companies will do this intentionally. They'll avoid creating these layers, functional layers in an organization, because they either believe that it's more efficient to have a decentralized structure, or they just don't want to pay for it.
Yeah. Mostly they just don't want to pay for it, I think is the real deal here. I'm going to go into your background and experience because I think this is probably like the most important part of this job posting, right? Like, what is it that they're looking for? You mentioned maybe somebody who has like a police background or something like that.
I'm very curious about this.
Yeah, which I don't disagree with. And then also I did some digging to see people who currently hold this job title for this company. peeking at their LinkedIn's and what they've done in the past too, because I just wanted to see what is it that they're looking for these roles. And so what do we have here? Right, your background experience. I don't know why I said what we have here. I got distracted. Something was moving on my screen. Okay, get back into it. Okay, 3+ years of relevant experience in customer service, mediation, emergency services, trust and safety operations, or a similar role operating in a contact center environment, making calls and handling customer-client contacts. Hospitality experience is a plus, in particular working for technology platforms. Ability to work weekend days and public holidays, as well as early morning, evening shifts. Your schedule can change to meet business needs. Ability to work in a high-pressure environment, interacting with sensitive, confidential, and potentially traumatic imagery, conversations, and other materials. So I'm going to stop there. That was only 4 bullet points, but a whole heck of a lot going on in those 4 bullet points.
Yeah. This, what you've read out there so far is a bit of a red flag to me. It sounds like they're looking for support agents who have the ability to take on really, really horrific, traumatic kind of stuff, but are going to be treated like and paid like general support agents.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what this is. If that's the case, huge red flag. From an organizational standpoint, the way I would be structuring this is to have a general support pool that doesn't deal with, cases like this, and then have a better trained, better paid, specialized support group that get referred the really horrific stuff. It doesn't sound like this is their organizational approach, though, which really, really sets off my spidey sense. I'm not digging this.
Yeah, you are. I think that you're absolutely right on that. We haven't even gotten into the pay or anything like that, but I think that you're pretty much bang on. My question is, this is so. I'm really struggling with this role, like traumatic injury, imagery,
yeah,
traumatic imagery, conversations, and other materials. Like, they're going to see things. I'm really curious about what training, like they're asking for people to come in who already have experience. Fine, like fair enough. But like, what are you providing additionally? And it almost makes me wonder if they should really have like a call center first tier people in-house, but then outsourcing to people who, like, maybe there's a company that exists out there that deals with this kind of shit, like exclusively and specifically and expertly, because this is some of the articles that I found when I was going down the rabbit hole were extremely, extremely disturbing, from suicides to murders being committed, to child sex trafficking taking place, drugs, all sorts, people being sexually assaulted in the place. Like it's just really horrific. And so I should hope that these people are experienced. And so, like I said, I went and looked at someone who has that role. I'm just going to pull up their background. So this is their role. Their title is senior safety specialist with this company. But in the past, they have done they've acted as an emergency communications coach. They were a police communications operator, which was interesting that you would mention a police background, a volunteer crisis responder, a police and fire dispatcher, emergency medical dispatcher, and then something else that's unrelated. So that's the background of somebody who holds a senior title of that role. And I just thought that was really interesting because, it's emergency responsiveness.
That background is going to make a lot of sense for a role like this. Because when you're in emergency services, like when particularly dispatchers, like they operate in a call center environment, yes, but they're exposed to some really traumatic stuff. Yeah. Like the folks who work in the emergency operations center here in Toronto for the city, they're awesome. Like they're phenomenal superhero type people. They're exposed to a ton of really, really negative stuff. And, you, in that environment, that background, having those jobs, you get training from the organization that you work for. So like I kind of get the progression where you would want that background, because as this company, that they're already going to have the training. Which the cynical part of me is like, so you don't have to do it and you don't have to pay for it. That's what you're after. But you're going to need that. You're going to need that background to be able to do that part of this job really, really well. But this still doesn't quite sit right with me.
Well, I can see why something like this. So that individual that I found on LinkedIn with the title, I can see where this is an appealing perspective, perspective job for them, because like you said, if you're working in like at a police call center or whatever emergency, you're now shifting to basically like a tech company. And this is where we go back to like, well, what is the industry? It's software. That's primarily what it is that they're doing. It's a software company. And so you get to work from home. You probably get a lot of perks that you would get from a tech company that you wouldn't get from like an emergency call center. So I can see where it is appealing for sure. And yeah, I would be curious to see what kind of in-house training they offer, as well as hopefully these roles have an extravagant amount of funding for their extended benefits, like counseling, therapy, employee programs, right? They're going to need it. They're absolutely going to need it. So then let's just go into the skills and expertise for this. Very good interpersonal and communication skills, written and spoken, including conflict resolution, ability to organize a high volume of work, multitask, prioritize, and to work within prescribed schedules, including breaks, lunches, and training time. So training is mentioned there. Basic computer literacy, language proficiency in English and other languages are a plus, which again makes sense considering the nature of the work and the global aspect. Able to assess risk accurately, understand level of urgency, good judgment when it comes to risky situations, and sharing the most pertinent information with stakeholders. Ability to adapt to new tasks and responsibilities, proactive attitude towards embracing new challenges, and capable of adjusting to evolving roles and job duties with openness and flexibility, as well as moving to a new team. I want to pause there because they mentioned that at the top of the job ad as well, that basically you could be moved to a different team. And I'm wondering, like, in what situation, like, what does that mean? They would want someone to go maybe from this like emergency responsive type role to maybe just customer support. Like, what does that look like to you? How do you read that, and any other flags that you have in that section?
Yeah, and that's the organizational design in this kind of customer facing support group. I'm quite curious about now. Like, how do they structure the work? How do they structure the teams? Like, do you have a team that has a safety specialist embedded in it, and they're one person in a pod or a working group, and then you have a bunch of different working groups that are kind of the same? Is it structured like that? I don't know. Or is there a policy where perhaps you're regularly rotating your safety specialists out to stuff that's not horrific, to give them like a bit of a break while they recover from some trauma? Like, is that a normal part of kind of the operating structure? Don't know. Like, I could see kind of both of those things perhaps being a reality for something like this. Or is it just simple, balancing the needs of the business? And for some reason, like in the months of May and June, you don't need as many safety people, but you need a heck of a lot more like sales support or like host support people. Who knows? Absolutely.
And something that we didn't touch on with the background and experience, again, the subcategories just don't make sense for me, but they did talk about, and it makes sense, ability to work weekends, public holidays, like think about when people go on vacations, right? That's when you're going to be needed the most. So that is a little bit of a downer in my opinion, but it makes sense. And yeah, I would hope that it's what you said, like maybe they rotate because they want to give people a break. Who knows? There's just not enough information here, but that's what was under your skills and expertise. And then the location, It's in Canada. We know it's remote. It says remote eligible. And it does say that it may include occasional work at the company office or attendance at offsites as agreed to with your manager. And while it is remote eligible, you need to live in a province where the company has a registered entity, which is the following provinces, and then it listed them. And then it has a commitment to inclusion and belonging, which is quite long. They talk about being committed to working with the broadest talent pool possible. They believe that diverse ideas foster innovation and engagement. And they strive to also provide a disability inclusive application and interview process. They ask that you only reach out to them if you are a candidate whose disability prevents you from being able to complete on our online application. And then they also mention that they use automated tools to help with their recruiting team efficiently screen a large volume of applications. All final hiring decisions are made by a human reviewer. This role is for an existing vacancy within the organization. So that's mentioned. There's also one more section before we get into pay, and it's how we'll take care of you. So our job titles may span more than one career level. The actual base pay is dependent upon many factors such as training, transferable skills, work experience, business needs, and market demands. The base pay range shown below is annualized, is subject to change, and may be modified in the future. This role may also be eligible for bonus, equity, benefits, and employee travel credits. So that's it before we go into the pay. Any thoughts on the commitment to inclusion and belonging or the AI disclosure?
Yeah, I mean, I like that they've drawn a line and they've said decisions are going to be made by a person.
Yeah.
I personally believe that that's the right way to go about technology assisted hiring, whether it's AI or whether it's some other process that has the potential to kind of unfairly screen out or screen in people. They've said a human will make this decision. Okay, good. You've kind of got me there. Great. The accessibility and inclusion statement where they're basically saying only get in touch with us if you can't actually fill out the application. What is that? Like if you have a disability or a problem that prevents you from filling out the application, it's pretty likely that you're going to not be able to contact them. So that's a little bit useless. It's a very strange thing to put out there. It's like, hey, we offer this support, but don't use it. Come on.
I know. And what's interesting too is that so if you need support, it says contact us, and the email address is reasonablea.accommodations@thecompany.com. So they have a specific email address just for that. And maybe they're doing that because they provide a way to contact them. They're saying, but only contact us if it's about this specific thing, because, people will reach out and try to like backdoor their way into having a conversation about why they should be hired for the role. I don't know.
Yeah. I could see that happening, but it's very strange the way that they've kind of phrased it.
Is. And it does note, I do like that it notes that the role is for an existing vacancy within the organization. We've talked about that, like disclosing whether it's net new or it doesn't, obviously it's not going to say somebody quit because they hated their job so badly versus we have decided to add an additional role or whatever it is, like somebody got promoted or whatever. I mean, it's hard to give all of that information. But what are your thoughts on that? How we'll take care of you, which again doesn't actually explain how they'll take care of you. This is like my biggest gripe with this job posting is that none of the subtitles actually match the content. Where it says our job title may span more than one career level, and et cetera, everything that it goes into. Any thoughts on that?
The salary adjustment thing bugged me a little bit. They said, these salary ranges may be modified in the future. Okay, legally, really, if you're talking about someone who is already employed, there isn't a mechanism to say, guess what, you're earning less money now. Like that, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
But the way that this was phrased, it sounds like they're trying to leave the door open to adjust salary up or down. Upward salary adjustments, yeah, that happens. You've got cost of living stuff, you've got inflationary pressures, you've got labor market pressures. Like those are going to influence salary over time. But everybody knows that. So why do you feel the need to put this into your job posting, that you may need to adjust salary in the future? Like, is this, they also talked a little bit before, now that I think of it, about the rate of pay being annualized. So does that mean that the people who are in these jobs aren't being paid like a salary? Are they being paid by the hour, or are they being paid a contractor or a piece rate, or is there something kind of funny and weird going on there? It makes me wonder if that's a part of the pay model in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So speaking of salary and speaking of pay, what is your guess for the pay range for this role? Canadian remote.
It's in CAD.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting too that they said you must live in a province that where we have a registered entity. That's weird to me. Why would you incorporate a bunch of provincial entities instead of a single federal entity? I don't know. Anyway, that's my thing. Hey, I feel like I'm going to be very critical, and that they're going to end up actually paying appropriately. But I think that annualized, they're going to be offering between 55 and 70,000 a year for this.
Well, you're correct in the range. The range is interesting. Haven't seen this before. So it says Canada annual pay range $63,000 to $63,000.
Oh, okay.
That's why I thought that
not a range.
Fake. Yeah, because it's not a range. They're just saying we are paying you this, and that's it. So you were within that range. It's not as low as I had maybe thought that it would be, but it's still low considering that the nature of the job. Like these are the types of roles that just need to be paid all of the money. Yeah. You're being exposed to so much. But that's
yeah. That's not what I would consider a great base salary.
Yeah.
For a job like this, particularly if you're going to be rather routinely exposed to some pretty horrific stuff, which they call out in the job ad. Like we've talked about before, where things that are said in job ads that stand out, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
That means that this role, these teams, they have been exposed to some pretty terrible stuff. 63K is not great for what I feel like this person is going to be shouldering for kind of the mental and emotional load that they're going to be under. And kind of for comparison, an emergency services dispatcher in Toronto starts at 70,000 a year. So I would kind of wonder, like, what's the incentive to get out of that and into this if you're making less money here? Like I would, if I was an emergency services dispatcher and I was going to make the jump to tech to do essentially the same job, but maybe with less like real-time kind of pressure, I'd be looking for a pay upgrade, not a pay downgrade.
This is it. And like I was saying, like it could be, okay, I want to get out of that and I want to work in tech because sometimes you get some good perks. Well, if the better pay isn't one of them, then why would you want to? Maybe it's the flexibility. Maybe it's a remote environment. I have no idea. But yeah, I didn't know that that's what the pay was for the role that you mentioned, but it is interesting that this is not.
I only know because I have a friend who works in that space who talked about it recently.
Well, we're going to take a quick break so that Paul can read through the job posting in its entirety, and then we'll come back with our final thoughts. And as per usual, you can find a link to the full job posting in the episode notes, I believe. Is that correct, Paul?
Yep. We will put all of the stuff in the episode notes for sure.
Okay, great. We're going to take a break right now. And we are back. Paul's had the opportunity to review the job posting in full. And I would love to hear your thoughts, Paul, including your ratings for this job posting.
I don't like it. I don't like it. The kind of spidey sense stuff where I was thinking this looks a little bit like kind of a pattern, but I'll reserve judgment. I think that I was right. So first, let's talk about the job description itself. It was okay. I would probably give the job description itself 6 out of 10. It was clear. It did list out the things that you would want to see in a job post. It was honest. I definitely give them credit for the level of honesty that they put into this job post, specifically with the kind of items around specific harms, like you're going to come into contact with this stuff, and you need to be resilient enough to deal with that. That was all pretty good. It was outlined well. 6 out of 10. Role design, 2 out of 10. This structurally is not going to be a role where retention is high. There are going to be a lot of people who, after about 6 months, they're done. They can't take it anymore because of what we've talked about. Like you can't pull in people who don't have the training, don't have the background of dealing with this really traumatic stuff, and expect them to just be able to learn it on the fly. There's no mention here whatsoever of training, how they're going to prepare you for this. There's none of that whatsoever. And you can make the case that perhaps that they do have really, really good training and they just don't talk about it in the job ad. Fair. I partly buy into that. But for this topical content, for this stuff where there's so much intersection with harm, talk about your training program. Talk about the supports that you're going to have in place for people coming into an organization and doing a job like this. The fact that they don't talk about this at all makes me think that there is none. And that's deeply, deeply, deeply concerning to me. So this role, there's going to be a lot of structural stuff stacked up against it. There also isn't much of a sense of how the teams are structured. So you don't get a clear picture of what the other roles are that are around this role. If there was that level of information in it, and if the teams were structured in such a way that you could kind of see a bit of self-reinforcement that would help the person coming into this role deal with the shit that they're going to come across, be a little bit better. But I suspect that there is none of that. I suspect that this is a standard issue call center, customer support type operation that's figured out, oh geez, there's some difficult things we have to deal with, so let's hire a specialist role and just kind of toss them into the barrel with everybody else. That's a recipe for failure.
Yeah, I agree. I think like the job posting itself for me is like, I don't know, like a 3 out of 10. Like none of the headings match what they're saying. Like, what is the purpose of this role? Why does this role exist? Right? How are you making an impact? What does your day-to-day look like? And what kind of supports are you going to have to be successful in this role? Like, none of that exists. It really doesn't make sense. It's written very poorly. It was hard to read out loud because it just grammatically didn't make any sense most of the time. So wasn't crazy about it. And then, so job design, same for me. What did you give the job design?
2.
A 2, yeah. 2, 3, something like that. Like you said, if you should have world-class training for positions like this. You would hope. So if you do, then say it. There's nothing, and it says how we'll take care of you, and it doesn't talk about how we'll take care of this. Like, you're in this role. What is it? Like, we are a team. You will work with a first-class team of people dedicated to improving the outcomes of traumatic situations and blah, blah, blah. And you will have an extra stipend of whatever. You will have more time off because you might need it. Like, how we'll take care of you, we'll pay you, and our pay range is one number. Like, what? Like, that's not how you'll take care of this person. So in a
Yeah.
specific role, it's okay if it looks different than other roles at the organization. It deserves to have more. It deserves to have special treatment. Maybe they can't do it in pay, but they can do it in other ways. Like, what does that look like? So yeah, it doesn't talk about who it reports to. It doesn't talk about like the team structure. It was actually really, really terrible. And these large organizations can get away with that, right? Like they're going to have so many people apply to these roles that it's okay if the turnover is high. They might just expect that people don't last very long in these types of roles, and they're okay with that because what does it matter to them? They're like a huge, huge global organization. So yeah, I wasn't crazy about it either. It was a good find. I'm glad I know that this exists, and I have so much compassion for the people who have to do these types of roles, and the people who, you know, in good faith and obviously for some money, put their homes up for other people to occupy, only to have something horrific like this happen, or like those situations happen. It's awful. It's awful all around. It's awful. Like we said, this position exists because things have happened that have required this position to exist. And that makes me really, really sad.
It's a very good point you bring up about the how we'll take care of you section being very light. So that my annoyance with how this role is structured actually distracted me from talking about that. For a role like this, I would want to be seeing extended healthcare, specifically in EAP, Employee Assistance Program, and mental health. I would want to see some very specific, very, very attractive things in there, because there's this, you know, here in Canada, we see it all the time. There's this kind of fallacy that oh well, healthcare is free, so you know it's great, like, you know, wonderful or whatever. Standards of care differ province to province, and mental health care in pretty much every province is not good. It's not considered a core part of the system, and it's underfunded. So this is an example of where you really have the private sector supplementing what's provided in the public system. So there are things like, you know, Dialogue, there are things like TELUS Health, there are all these providers that are very specifically kitted out to offer EAP type stuff and wellness type stuff for employees and mental health care. This role absolutely needs that. Even for somebody who goes in like being the most resilient, steadfast person in the world, they're going to need access to that care at some point. And if this employer is not providing that, shame on them, because it's not exactly the most expensive stuff in the world. It's actually quite affordable to provide this. Yeah. So they need to be doing it.
And if they are providing it, then say so. Then list it. Like, it's such a weak job posting. It boggles my mind at how weak it is. So yeah, that's it.
It's roasted. It's roasted, that's for sure. I don't think that I want to cook dinner on top of it. I don't like it.
All done with that one. Awesome. Okay.
See you next week, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If today's breakdown made job postings just a little easier to understand, or at least a little less painful, mash that old subscribe button. We're on YouTube and all the major podcast apps, so follow us wherever you like to listen. And if you spot a posting that feels off, confusing, oddly ambitious, or just plain entertaining, send it our way. We love digging into real examples from real people. Link in the show notes for more. We'll see you on the other side of the mulberry bush with another post to roast next week.